All right, welcome to our quick review of urban hierarchies. These slides were originally designed to accompany the textbook People, Places, and Culture. Please just do make a note that I modified them and added some information, and that the lecture itself is being recorded by myself, Chris Gall. So we talk about how do we categorize urban hierarchies. There's really just a couple of ways to do it. Okay, and what we're talking about here when we're categorizing urban hierarchies is that we are categorizing them based primarily on their population, but then we're also going to look a little bit at their relative importance when compared to each other. So there's really two major ways to do this. One is the rank size rule, which is based entirely on population, and the other one is the law of the primate city. So we talk about the rank size rule. Basically what it holds is that in a model urban hierarchy, so in an ideal urban hierarchy, the population of a city or town is inversely proportional to its rank in the hierarchy. In English, what this means is that the second largest city will have about half the population of the largest, the third largest city will have roughly a third of the population of the largest, the fourth largest city has a population the fourth of the largest, and on down the list. Okay, and this happens due to a combination of random growth and also economies of scale for those places where it works. It doesn't work everywhere. Okay, and economies of scale, by the way, just as a quick review of that, just means that the more you make of something, the less it costs per unit to make, so that cities grow in part because the larger they get, the cheaper it is for them to produce things and things like that. Okay, so the law of the primate city, on the other hand, tends to work in those places where the rank size rule will not. And these two things, by the way, they're mutually exclusive. You will never have a primate city in a place where you have a urban hierarchy. Okay, and primate cities are countries' leading cities. Okay, they're always disproportionately large. Disproportionately large means that they are more than 2 times larger than the next city, and oftentimes they're 3, 4, 5, 6 times larger than the next largest city. Okay, and they're exceptionally expressive of national capacity and feeling. Generally, not always, these are political capitals of the country. Okay, so the counterexample that I always like to give is Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro, not actually the capital of Brazil, but it is the primate city of Brazil. Okay, the capital of Brazil is Brasilia, and there's a whole long story about how that came about. But just know that these are cities that are the leading cities economically, they're the leading cities culturally. Okay, and we talk about it being exceptionally expressive of national capacity and feeling. The way I like to explain this is that these are the cities that when you think about a country and you just kind of, what pictures come to mind, this is the place you think of. Okay, so for example, if I ask you to think about France, for roughly 90% of people, especially here in the US, the first thing you're going to think about is Paris. Okay, you might think about something in Paris like the Eiffel Tower, okay, or the Arc de Triomphe, or something like that, but you're going to think about Paris. Okay, or if I ask you to think about South Korea, you're going to think about the big city in Seoul. Okay, if I ask you to think about Japan, what's going to come to mind are images of Tokyo. If I ask you even about England, right, which historically we've had a very close relationship with, you're still going to tend to think about London. You're not going to be thinking about the English countryside. Okay, so these are the cities that are hugely important. Pretty much everywhere else in the country relies on that city in some major way. Okay, typically economically, but also in terms of culture and things like that. So this has been our quick review, and what we did was we went over urban hierarchies, which again, that concept just means the way that we categorize cities in a country. Okay, and there's two major ways to do it. The rank size rule, which is based exclusively on population and says that population is inversely proportional to place in the hierarchy. And then we also talked about the law of the primate city, which is focused not just on population, though population is one of the criteria, but also in looking at how important is one city relative to the other cities in a country. So if you have questions, please feel free to bring them to class and ask, and otherwise I will see you the next time we meet.